Mike Gundy fired from Oklahoma State. Who should they look for? And they have more to figure out than just who their next head coach will be.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football of the bonus variety. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view. Post big news of the day. A lot happening out in the great state of Oklahoma, where I once resided, by the way. I have been to both of the campuses that I'm going to talk about here on this bonus show. Mike Gundy fired, John Mateer hurt, and we don't know how long he's going to be out for exactly. He better be back by Red River because I don't want to go against that Texas defense with a backup quarterback. Let's start with Mike Gundy, though. 21 years of really good football has been played, mostly really good football, has been played in Stillwater, and that's over now. This is the right thing to do. To cut, is it a strange day of the week and time? Sure, I suppose. There's never going to be a perfect time because you know what? With the way this college football schedule works, yes, we have the one transfer portal window now in the month of January that makes things better for the crazy calendar in the sport. It could still be improved in some other ways, but I digress. Oklahoma State has to figure out more than just who their next head coach is going to be. Oklahoma State has to figure out whether they are fully committed to being a program that is top tier in the Big 12 at least once every few years. We know they can be that. Mike Gundy had them literally one play, a few inches away from a college football playoff berth a couple of seasons ago. It has gone steadily downhill. The loss to Tulsa, final nail in the coffin, understandably so. Tulsa beat them in Stillwater for the first time since 1951. Heck of a win for the Golden Hurricanes, I believe that should be pluralized there. Backup quarterback or not, that's completely unacceptable. This was going downhill. Last year was a disaster. All right, I understand why Oklahoma State makes this move. I think it's the right thing to do. One moment that people are going to point at is the Oregon game. They go on the road. Oregon's a top 10 team. They ended up losing the game 69-3. And we know that Mike Gundy's words were used as fuel for Dan Lanning to talk to and fire up his team in what led to an embarrassing beatdown for the Cowboys that included pick sixes on back-to-back possessions by their backup quarterback. So, is that fair to Zane Flores? Not entirely, but again, I see some other, I'm going to talk about a backup quarterback later on today's show. I see other backup quarterbacks have more success, and that's not the only reason that Mike Gundy needed to be let go. But going into that game, Mike Gundy made some comments that Dan Lanning, because he's a good motivator as a head coach, twisted into, hey, he's pouring gasoline on the fire here. We're always fire. You're pouring gasoline on it right there. Because Mike Gundy spoke about the financial disparity between Oklahoma State and Oregon going into the game. I do not believe that Mike Gundy made those remarks with the intention of ticking off Oregon's head coach a little bit or giving him more ammunition to load up his team with. And of course, we saw how it went on the field. Now, it was obviously the byproduct, but do you think Mike Gundy went to the microphone and said, man, I should just tick off Dan Lanning. He's got a much better team than me. I know it. He knows it. I should really rile him up. That's not what he was doing. That's what happened and why it wasn't smart, but that's not what he was doing. What he was trying to do, how it came off to me, was send a message to his fans, to the university, to the alumni, the donor base in Stillwater. He was trying to send a message that said, hey, we're going to go play one of the best teams in college football and look at the way they invest. And we don't have that. And if you want me to get you there, you've got to make that at least more feasible. I think Mike Gundy feels that they are seriously behind on the NIL and financial investment necessary to compete. And you look at what's happening in the Big 12. Who's the best team? Texas Tech. Who's got the biggest offseason investment? Texas Tech. I think that's what he was doing. It was ill-timed because he happened to be going against Oregon, and that's how Dan Lanning works as a coach, and Dan Lanning has a much better roster than Mike Gundy in that spot. But Oklahoma State has to figure out, are we going to be a legitimate job? Are we going to be a tier one sort of job in the Big 12? Are we going to up our commitment? Because if you want to go out and get the best candidates, that's what you have to be able to pitch. You can't go to them and say, yeah, we're going to ask you to do more with less, and we don't have a ton here. Like, nope. You got to go. The people that are behind the scenes, nameless, faceless administrators that are involved in fundraising and NIL and all that stuff, you got to make it happen. And I'm not saying you have to become Texas Tech or you have to become an Oregon or a Texas or Ohio State. I think Mike Gundy feels, it needs to be more than that. So let's get to some names that you should be aware of. Number one that popped into my head when I heard this news, G.J. Kinney, head coach down at Texas State. He's taken a Bobcats program, and the success he has had, he's been a head coach in 2 different spots. He was at Incarnate Word, state of Texas. Texas State, obviously, in the state of Texas. He's won at both of those places. He's got the regional familiarity, which is a theme with these candidates and a lot of coaching searches, quite frankly. He's having some tie to the school or the area. That's a guy I think should be at or near the top of the list. Now, he's going into the New World Pac-12 at Texas State, in part because of the success he's had. Texas State became more appealing to the Pac-12 because G.J. Kinney has been winning there for the last couple of years. That hasn't historically been the case, but it's seen as a school on the rise, and the football program winning big games has been a part of that. So I would start with Coach Kinney. I would also, staying in the state of Texas, I would call Jeff Traylor at UTSA, who has been a good coach for quite a while, and Texas and Oklahoma recruit a lot of the same kids. Those schools, you're going all around the Lone Star State. Oklahoma doesn't have as much. They have some talent in their backyard, but not nearly as much as Texas, of course. Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma, is going to recruit the state of Texas a lot. That's why you're going to see a lot of the connections there when you see and hear names on this show or read articles about, who could be a potential target. It's all going to come back to the Lone Star State because of the recruiting base that is there. A name that has been getting tossed out that honestly I like but would pump the brakes on is Ben Arbuckle. He is the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. I like Ben Arbuckle. The success at Oklahoma so far has been clear. I mean, granted, one of the touchdowns that was scored in a big game shouldn't have actually counted because they were pushing a substitution rule, but you know what? That's the official's fault for not calling it, not his fault for dialing it up. So I'm not saying Arbuckle would be a bad name to go after because he's seen as a rising star. I think there are more proven candidates out there. That's all I'm saying there. Another name, a couple of coordinators to keep your eye on, and it's purely coincidence that these guys' name rhyme. I'm going to start with a guy who is currently in the state of Texas. Colin Klein is Texas A&M's offensive coordinator. He's got a history in the Big 12. Seeing as he was a quarterback at Kansas State, he has been really good with Mike Elko and the Aggies program offensively. I think he'd be able to recruit pretty well. He's a younger guy, and depends on the situation. Oklahoma State feels like one that needs an injection of life. Hiring an older coach depends on the coach, but generally speaking, I think a fan base that wants to really get excited is going to be on that level more so if you go out and find a coach that is on the younger side and is more adaptive and understanding of the new NIL and transfer portal game. Because I don't think Mike Gundy handled either of those things, particularly the portal, correctly over the last couple of years. The roster building at Oklahoma State should have been better over the last couple of seasons than it was. Another name to throw out there, Will Stein, the offensive coordinator at Oregon. He played quarterback at Louisville back in the day with Teddy Bridgewater. So not exactly right there, but kind of tied. He coached Texas high school football. He was the offensive coordinator at UTSA. He's been at Oregon the last several years. And if you look at what Dante Moore has done through his first 4 games, we'll see how he performs this Saturday against Penn State in the biggest game of the season for Oregon. Certainly to this point, but maybe all year. If Dante Moore looks really good in that game, you're going to see his name jump up Heisman boards, especially if Oregon wins. And Will Stein has put a Heisman finalist at quarterback to New York City each of the last 2 seasons. And he's a young guy who's got a really strong recruiting record, who's got a really strong offensive production record, who's got a really strong quarterback production and development record. He turned Bo Nix into a first-round pick. He turned Dylan Gabriel into a third-round pick. Dylan Gabriel, who was at Oklahoma, of course, before Oregon, got an undrafted free agent grade coming back from the NFL. That's why he stayed in college one more year with the Ducks. The Browns took him in the 3rd round. Bo Nix was going to be probably a mid-round pick. He was taken in the 1st round, now starting with the Broncos, of course. So I'm sure you'll see other names out there. if I were to rank my top 3, if I'm Oklahoma State, I'm putting G.J. Kinney first. I'm putting Jeff Traylor second. And as much as I do like Arbuckle and get why his name is out there, I would put Colin Klein third because of his history in the Big 12. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. Speaking of Oklahoma, oh boy, the Sooners. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. You can just move through life, or you can find things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it, like really go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Why be ordinary? Why be plain? That's what Oklahoma State's doing in their coaching search. They're hopefully deciding to not be ordinary, to not be plain, to really go for it. Mazda crafts cars who want to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode also brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Your finances can get all over the place, right? Most people don't know what their net worth actually is. Most people need one place to consolidate all of their financial assets, not look at a spreadsheet, and Monarch Money is the place to do just that. It's built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch Money is the place to go. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege. Finally, this episode also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season's here, and for goodness sake, college football is here. If you want to bet it all, FanDuel's the place to do it. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. College football, if you fade my picks every week, I can't blame you. I'm 4 games under 500 right now. It's not a good start. Straight up, it's just not a good start. But I'm going to try again this week. You want to fade the picks? Hey, go for it. You might make some money. If you've done that so far, you'd be up a little cash. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Check them out at FanDuel.com. Trouble in Norman. John Mateer had to have a procedure on his hand, wrist area, and oh boy, he's going to miss some time. Now, the good news for the Oklahoma Sooners is that they do not have an opponent this week that is going to threaten them. But ESPN and several others have reported he's addressing a right hand injury that he sustained against Auburn. There is an expectation he will return to action sometime this season, according to the tweet. Now, the problem for Oklahoma is not this week. They will be perfectly fine. They are taking on Kent State. The game is at home. They have a bye this week. Then they play Kent State. Then we'll talk about what happens after that. So on the one hand, you don't immediately look at this, and you don't ever want injuries to happen, of course. This is about the best possible time you could have it. You got through the Auburn game. You're 4-0. Now you have a bye, and you have Kent State at home next week. You could have benched John Mateer if he didn't have a serious injury. The issue for for Oklahoma, is that Texas is their next game. And you get into the gauntlet of this Oklahoma schedule on the back half. Listen to this. Texas in the Red River Shootout. At South Carolina, host Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri, LSU. Oklahoma has one of the toughest schedules in the country. Michael Hawkins has played some football before, and he is very mobile. He's got a pretty good arm, not as good of a passer as John Mateer. That's why he's the backup, of course. He's not as experienced as Mateer, but he did start a couple of games last year when Jackson Arnold was really struggling. If John Mateer does not get back, the two issues that can arise here for Oklahoma. Issue number one, the obvious, he doesn't get back in time for the Texas game. In no world could I pick Oklahoma to win Red River if Michael Hawkins is starting at quarterback. Because, frankly, for the sake of college football fans, I don't want that to be the case, because I don't want that rivalry game that's one of the 5 best in the country to feel diminished, to have a built-in excuse for one side. But also, we'd have to watch a game between Michael Hawkins and then Arch Manning against the Oklahoma defense. Oh my gosh. Yikes. Cotton Bowl, that could feel like the toilet bowl of quarterback play. So Arch did get on track this weekend against Sam Houston State. Flexing on him. He's got aura, according to Texas. So cringe, man. So cringe. It's Sam Houston State. I was going to say most people wouldn't know where it is on a map, but it has the name Houston in it, so that's kind of a dead giveaway. It's in the greater Houston area, you know? So, anyway, if you have Michael Hawkins going against that Texas defense, Arch Manning has struggled. Maybe he figured it out, needed a confidence boost, got it against Sam Houston State. He looked better. Yeah, Oklahoma's defense, a little bit better than the Bearcats. Just a smidge, just a tad, just a scotch. You know, just a lot. I could, for those watching on YouTube, I could, go like this and say, oh, it's way better. I could put my hands off the screen and say it's this much better. So we don't quite know yet. And the one time Arch faced a real defense was game 1 against Ohio State. And we all know how that went. It was pretty ugly. Now, is that a formula for Oklahoma to try and win that game? Yeah, I actually still think they could. I mean, crazier things have happened in a rivalry. The last time that I can remember, Oklahoma had some back and forth with a quarterback. Well, I suppose when they didn't have Dylan Gabriel, they lost the game 49-0. Maybe for Oklahoma's sake, I'm not trying to scare you guys right now and tell you that your season is toast, because it all depends on when John Mateer can get back. But there was also that time that Spencer Rattler started the game and Caleb Williams finished it. That went pretty well. That went pretty well. Now, Michael Hawkins has got some talent, got some ability, doesn't have all the experience. I do think that it is great, again, timing-wise, that he's going to get a bye week to work with the first-team offense, that he is going to get Kent State as a tune-up at home to work with the first-team offense, and, well, you better keep him healthy going into the Texas game. But this is a byproduct. I don't know exactly what play this happened on. It could have been a passing play. I don't know. But something that I pointed out with Oklahoma following their win against Michigan, which I thought they'd win. I thought they'd beat Auburn, and they did. I thought those would be wins to begin the season. I didn't waver off those predictions. I had Oklahoma finishing the season 8-4. I still see that as incredibly possible, because the knock on Ben Arbuckle coming into his tenure with Oklahoma is didn't really develop a run game with the running backs, and we still haven't seen that. And so as a result, when John Mateer is asked to be your Superman, he has a higher likelihood of getting dinged up over the course of the season. Auburn is a good physical defense. Mateer made game-winning plays. I don't know when this happened, but guess what? You expose your quarterback to a lot more risk when you have no semblance of a run game with your backs that you can lean on. And Oklahoma has had nothing in those 2 wins. It has been all John Mateer. So now, bringing this back to the Oklahoma State discussion for a moment, I think this is the biggest test for Ben Arbuckle to date. The results at Washington State offensively were very good. Their defense was atrocious last year. The results so far at Oklahoma have been good. I won't say great, but they have been good. When you're a high-profile coordinator at your rival, yeah, that could spice up if we ever get Bedlam back. I hope we do one day. Stupid realignment. Anyway, so I understand for a guy that's already in the state and would have some familiarity with recruiting in that particular footprint, not a ton because he just got there. If he goes out and gets Michael Hawkins to play at a level that beats the Texas defense, he would move into my top 3 candidates for the Oklahoma State job. He would. But as I said, for me, it is G.J. Kinney, it is Jeff Traylor, it is Colin Klein. Those would be my top 3 if I were Oklahoma State. I'd consider some other candidates. I'd consider Ben Arbuckle. So far, though, he's done good things. He hasn't done the, oh my gosh, this is incredible, unbelievable things. Like most of his success as a coordinator, and he deserves credit for it, but it is worthwhile context to discuss. Most of his success has been with John Mateer. John Mateer was, I believe, Washington State's leading rusher last year, and John Mateer can make some seriously special throws. And I actually don't remember if Arbuckle was the one that recruited him to Washington State. I'd have to do a double check on that. But if he gets Michael Hawkins to play well enough against the Texas defense, which I have been and continue to be quite bullish on because their talent is really good, they are coordinated well, that is one of the elite units in all of college football, then okay, I will view Ben Arbuckle in an even higher light. He'll go from top 5 to top 3 candidate, in my view, for the Oklahoma State job. But right now, I think he's still got something left to prove as an offensive coordinator. But if he's able to make this work, that'd be pretty impressive. That'd be very impressive considering the opponent you are going against. For Oklahoma, though, their offense has been, the reason I'm worried for the Sooners' sake is John Mateer is a really fun player to watch. That stinks. He's one of the Heisman favorites right now. He's been their entire offense, pretty much. It's been him. He's making special throws. He's making special plays. He's leading them in rushing all the time, even though they're not running for that many yards. It's just been him. And Oklahoma, pending how Michael Hawkins is able to perform, runs the risk of, until Mateer returns, of being inverted 2022 USC with Lincoln Riley. You run the risk of being Iowa. That's what, or frankly, just look at Oklahoma last year. Defense was really good. Yep, offense couldn't get it together. That's the risk that is run here for the Sooners. So I hope John Mateer gets back healthy, because the Sooners will be a lot more fun to watch throughout the course of the season if he is there. But if it's Michael Hawkins, then Ben Arbuckle could only be coordinator at Oklahoma for 1 year if he winds up having a lot of success. So what a news-filled day. And yeah, this is a bonus show. Still more coming tomorrow. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.